So last time on the Blockbuster show, I announced that we were going to be doing a movie that was worse than Mac and Me in terms of being an E.T. ripoff, and yeah, this one's surprisingly worse than Mac and Me.
It will take extraterrestrial spirit and courage, along with the help of two native brothers, to reunite these space travelers.
Nukie!
In the tradition of E.T. and Close Encounters of a Third Kind,
What in the world?
comes a magical adventure of two pairs of brothers from different universes. Nukie.
This is the part where I would read the IMDb description and summarize what happened, but just like with Mac and Me, it's basically E.T., but there's some new stuff that's added, and we'll get into that. So Nukie is about these two alien brothers, and it starts with them flying through space as stars, and then they end up crash landing on Earth. They're both separated. One lands in the savannas of Africa, and one is found in America, and is brought into this testing facility to study what exactly these aliens are. And much like E.T. and Mac and Me and all these kinds of movies, you have it that the aliens are able to somehow communicate with one another, and we go on a big journey to see them come together and, you know, find each other and go home. So as one of the brothers, Nico, is in this laboratory in America being experimented on, Nukie is in the middle of Africa. He comes across this small village where there's a bunch of missionaries. There's this nun lady, and she kind of becomes a main character. And there's also some people from the government. There's this scientist who was part of the experimentation back in the lab in America. So he ends up seeing that the alien's brother is there, and he becomes a bit of a main character as well. Nukie befriends these two kids in the village. So if we didn't have all this stuff going on already, with the fact that there's space aliens in this movie's universe, there's also talking animals. Yes, there's talking monkeys as comic relief.
You like candy? Have some. Look, it's the same color as my shirt. It's delicious.
Why are there talking monkeys in this movie? I would guess that it's a power that Nukie has, like he's able to just talk to animals. I don't know, because the movie really doesn't explain why there's talking monkeys in this movie about space aliens. Before we go on with the actual plot, I just want to quickly throw in thoughts on the production and the costume work and all that kind of stuff. The costumes in this look even worse than Mac and Me. Like, the Mac and Me aliens with their creepy-ass faces, even they look better than this. Like, these costumes literally look like they were made out of trash bags. That's what it looks like. One of the most impressive parts is there's a part where they actually get the eyes to blink on the costume, and I'm like, whoa, I actually wasn't expecting them to actually have, like, articulation with facial features. Like, after the two kids get banished from their tribe, they go along with Nukie and his quest to get to America. And, you know, there's constant back and forth from that going on with what's going on in the lab. Nico befriends this computer who at first is a bad guy, but then he's talking with him, and he eventually convinces him to be a good guy, and he teaches him about human emotion.
Excuse me?
Oh, you're so beautiful.
That part was just weird. Like, that was Oogie Love's talking vacuum in love with window levels of creepy. One more thing about the computer. He has easily the best line in this whole movie, because there's one part where he's talking to this scientist lady, and he goes, "You know something? You suck."
You know something, lady? You suck.
Best line in the whole movie. That's the best line in the whole film. Here's one of the big problems with this movie. There's parts where characters could easily do things to get themselves out of tight-end situations, and they just choose not to do it.
Don't shoot!
They established at the beginning that the aliens can turn themselves into stars and fly in the sky. And at first I'm like, okay, so Nico probably can't do it because he's injured or something, but Nukie does it later.
Here we go. Yippee!
And then he just goes up into the sky, and he turns the kids into stars, and they fly in the sky too. And then they just turn back to normal and they keep walking.
If we can't walk, we can fly together.
Why not just turn into a star and fly all the way to America and find your brother?
Nico, America.
Okay, we find America for you.
Oh, please.
And there's another part where it turns out Nukie can possess technology. Like, he makes a motorcycle drive around and then eventually crash. There's tons of that in this movie where they could easily do something and they just choose not to do it. Eventually, the two kid brothers end up getting separated, so now it's just one of the kids and Nukie trekking across Africa to get to America. And that's supposed to be symbolism because the two brothers are separated, like how Nico and Nukie are separated. Another problem with this movie is that it's very boring. There's tons of scenes where they have transition shots showing the outside of the laboratory that Nico's in, and they have this narrator voice who I guess is the computer, or it's the same actor as the computer, I don't know. But there's several points where they show it and they go, no progress update.
Base Foundation, June 17th, 12:30 p.m. All control units functional. Nothing unusual to report. Everything under control.
And when they show stuff like that, I'm like, what was the point of that transition? If you're not going to show anything that's going on at that scene, or there's nothing to show, why even show it? And the one thing that I didn't expect in this movie was there's actually a dance sequence. Yeah, Nukie just breaks out into dancing, and there's music and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, you're making the McDonald's dance sequence in Mac and Me actually look exciting, because the dance sequence in this is shit. I'm gonna throw this in. All the parts in the lab where the humans are just kind of talking to one another, those parts are boring. They're really boring. There's parts where I'm like, wait, who are they talking about? Because this movie barely introduces you to characters. There's a part where this nurse is like, oh, well, Harvey said to do this thing. And I'm like, who is that?
This little creature will make us all the pioneers of space research.
Harvey hates tests on living creatures.
The end of the movie has Nukie and the kid end up on some random beach in America.
Look up at the sky and make a wish.
I wish that Tokyo was here, and Mom, and Sister Anne, and that Miko finds Nukie alive.
The good scientist guy, the nun from The Missionary, Nico, and the kid's brother are all on that exact beach at that time, and everyone gets reconnected. Everyone has their goodbyes, their heartfelt reconnections, and then the movie ends with Nukie and Nico going into space. Oh, and they take the talking monkeys with them. That's, for some reason, they bring them along.
I want to go with you.
Come with us.
It's not only that stuff happening in this movie is stupid, it's that it's just so boring. It's like 100 minutes long, and almost nothing happens. Constant scenes of people just dicking around, doing stuff, wasting time. Like I said, this movie is even worse than Mac and Me. Mac and Me at least had a sequence of people dancing into McDonald's, and there was choreography that went into that. Compared to this, the dance sequence in this was shit. The costumes were awful. None of the characters got even remotely fleshed out or were even interesting. This was just a slog to sit through. This was just so boring and stupid, and this could quite possibly be one of the dumbest movies I think we ever watched for Blockbusters. So that's it for all the Blockbuster videos that we're doing in April. There's a couple more videos coming for next month in May. We got 2 movie reviews coming up next month, so look forward to some of those. Until then, I'm gonna watch E.T., or a movie that's actually a movie.
You know something, lady? You suck.